There he was, one and done, state of grace achieved in 40 minutes. St. Augustine had said that drinking to excess was a mortal sin, but as the Church had not established a blood alcohol limit, Hal had decided that he only had to confess if he lost consciousness. Bordering the south wall, shaded by 2 old lime trees and several taller, newer buildings, was a small graveyard. It had been opened some years before the Catholic cemeteries in Kensal Green and Leighton. Most of the headstones were thin, leaning, illegible remnants. In a spot of sun, there was a small white marble grave marker so brightly new that it seemed unreal, as if there couldn't really be a body underneath. The body belonged to Hal's grandfather's elder brother's only son, whose name was Richard, and who had been born the same year as Hal's father. He had died young, childless. Henry was the one who had buried Richard here. The previous dukes were interred side by side in St. Michael's and All Souls in Lancaster, with the exception of the 6th Duke, who had died of mysterious causes while imprisoned in the Tower of London. Hal felt he should pay his respects. If Richard hadn't been such a degenerate, Hal's father wouldn't care nearly so much that Hal was too. It was like Oscar Wilde had said, to have one queer in the line of succession was a tragedy. To have 2 looked like there was something fucking wrong with your family. And, in fact, the Lancasters had had 3. Hal's great-great-grandfather had died in exile after going wrong with a Frenchman. Now Hal was son and heir, possessing nothing but a subsidiary title, an unignorable sense of his own preeminence, and a daily terror of this preeminence going unnoticed by everyone in the world except his father, who had rung him 9 times back-to-back while he was at Mass. It was fine. Hal had his phone on silent. He made the sign of the cross, prayed for Richard's soul, and said a very genuine Our Father. There were a lot of different ways you could vomit from being drunk. There was the tactical chunder, the unloosing of a stomach's worth of lager to make room for another few pints. The surprise puke, which was not a surprise because it would happen inevitably if you did not make it happen yourself. The takeaway puke, where you scarfed a styrofoam box full of chips or an extra spicy kebab and then gagged it back up again like a dog who'd poured open the rubbish. The nightcap puke, a tidy voiding of the stomach right before you collapsed. The blackout puke, with which you were acquainted only afterwards when you woke up in it. The night bus puke, which probably could have been kept down if you hadn't been jerked back and forth for half an hour by an idiot sadist of a driver. The hangover breakfast puke, which suggested that baked beans and rashers did little to cure the wounds that had been incurred the night before. Then there was the most miserable of them all, the 0% blood alcohol empty stomach heaving up of bile, the body's confused and pathetic attempt to rid itself of poison that had already been pissed away. It was like doing penance when you had already been punishing yourself. From Hal's phone on the floor beside him came Ed Poyne's unconcerned drone, North London, inflected with American TV.
I've got a cousin in Australia who played rugby, and he drank so much he got a hole in his esophagus.
Hal said, I don't want to hear about people getting holes where they shouldn't have them. Can't you tell me something funny? He felt the weird internal grip of nausea and bent over the toilet bowl, spitting into the clear, still water. He was lucky he couldn't see his face in it. He could sort of see the silhouette of his head. Another round of puke worked its way up his throat and out of his mouth. He had to gag and gasp to get it all free. In the water, it looked like a whisked egg. Poynes made a noise.
Are you puking right now?
Like Hal, Poynes had read English at Oxford. He had talked vaguely about doing law or working in the city or whatever else would make him money.
My only inheritance will be my mum's semi-detached, he liked to remind Hal, but just after they'd sat their finals, he'd landed a decent supporting role in a mini-series adaptation of a First World War memoir. He played a young Tommy who'd been shot in the throat and then had a lot of homoerotic poetry.